Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Campus Dialogues, a Muslim Views production in affiliation with MuslimFin. MuslimFin, your roadmap to Islamic banking and finance. I'm your host, Ali Sali, and here to introduce our guest this evening is my good friend and colleague, Siraj Buzik. Siraj?
Assalamu alaikum, Ali.
Wa alaikum salam.
Good to be back in the studio.
Always good to be back.
Listen, like I say, it's always another week, another podcast on the Muslim Dialogue. And tonight we have a special guest in studio with us. Basically, his day job, he's a software developer at Solvam Consulting, and at night he's Batman. No, I'm joking. Tonight in the studio with us we have Jamil Majid, who is currently the chairman of Primrose Cricket Club and oversees the infrastructure requirements at the Rosmid Sports Field and the WPCA board. Jamil, welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Jamil, we're quite excited to have you in studio. Normally we have business people, entrepreneurs, on our podcast, and we normally speak about banking-related things or business or BCom, etc. But the one trend that we've seen with a lot of successful people is that sports played a vital role in their upbringing. Whether it be cricket, whether it be rugby, but sports has somehow been part of our culture.
Yeah.
As Muslims in the Cape, people in general, and I think there's a lot of life lessons that people can take from sports. That you carry over into your daily life. And we've seen that with successful people that we've had on our show and people in general. So we're quite excited to have you in studio from a sporting aspect. So welcome. I hope you're going to enjoy the podcast.
Inshallah.
Jamil, we've got quite a few questions we want to jump into. Ali and Asa, we set in terms of what we want to ask you. But perhaps as a starting point, tell us who Jamil Majid is. Where do you come from? Who's your family? What was your upbringing? What was your association? Were you always passionate about sports, cricket or rugby, etc.? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, I suppose the response to that is always you. I don't like to speak to myself about myself. But yeah, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
So, my name is Jamil Majid. I was born in Grassy Park, right? And I was basically grew up there till Senate 6,
Okay.
and then moved to Wynberg. With regards to sport, yeah, was born into a sporting family,
Okay.
right? Cricket and rugby, and that's all we knew. We grew up playing it, cricket and rugby from, I think, 4 years old or whatever. Been taken to the clubs, and even though we were underage, we had to play because they were grooming you to be whatever.
Correct.
Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work, but it doesn't seem like it worked. But yeah, alhamdulillah, that is, so, yeah. In Wynberg, I played cricket and rugby for Primrose. Then I did a stint when I started at UWC. I played some cricket at UWC as well. I think my passion, you're going down the line of how you're explaining this interview to me, and that is everything that I'm about.
Okay.
And it's about understanding where we're coming from with regards to what sport has done for me, and also why people are so passionate in what they do in our communities, that week in and week out, and it's voluntary.
Correct.
And what is it that they see? It's so valuable for us to carry on and carry on that legacy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is just the bottom line. What tipped it for me was I was coaching rugby. This is about 15 years ago, and I took a group of boys under 13s to George.
Okay.
And they played in a tournament over there, but it was a very diverse group. There were some boys from Constantia, and then I had a group of boys from Menenberg, and that made up the 24, Lansdowne, Wynberg. And when I came back from there, I decided to do a life coaching course. I told my assistant, listen, guy, this is not what rugby isn't what I need to teach you. We need to be more than just rugby coaches. And then I was looking out for a life coaching course or whatever, and then somebody just advised me, listen, if you want to go and do something, go and do a degree. And that is where I did this degree in psychology now, psychology and counseling, which basically opened my mind up into, how better to do things and, how to approach what I'm wanting to do in carrying on this legacy of sport and social upliftment.
Jamil, you mentioned a very good point there when you speak about it's not just about coaching rugby.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to, if we look at our communities, I think a lot of our players, a lot of our youth are coming from broken homes.
Yeah.
Probably drug-affected areas, gangsterism, absent parents or fathers or mothers, etc. So it's just not about rugby. You know, there's other elements. How important is that in terms of bringing a child through the system in terms of sports?
So you come to a club, right? Be it any club, and you come as a parent and you want your child to be part of something, cricket or rugby. With me being involved in this thing my whole life, you just don't understand the value of what these clubs, and I'm not saying Primrose now, what all these clubs put in, the effort they put in, you know, for creating that platform for children, not just to excel at their game. Obviously, that is what you need to do at a sports club. But those coaches are parents. Those coaches are guardians, because you get your drop-off parents.
Yeah.
Those coaches are so much for the children and in their growing up. It blows your mind, man. I don't think, like, for years we struggle because it's the same type of, you're always reaching. I'm on a finance podcast, so wow, here we go. But you know, you're always limited with budget, man.
Yeah.
Actually, there's no budget because we're all volunteers. Right? I started coaching because my son was 5 years old, and I said I started when I was 5, so here we go. The same guys that started with all of us at that age, he's 22 now. They're playing first team rugby now, you know, and they're still at the club. So that's a proud moment for me, you know, to see these guys, and when they come to you, they still show appreciation, meaning that the type of values that you did instill and the effort that you did put in, that's actually the benefit at the end of the day. So, yeah, I commend all these community clubs for what they do, and yeah, I just hope that they can carry on doing it for much longer, and also for the finance sector, you know, reach out, support these community clubs. But I know it's not easy, but I suppose we should end off with the same. But yeah, man, the work is being done.
Yeah.
It's not that the work is not being done. So if it is that you're not confident in the work being done, sit and listen to the people, you know, and hear what it's about, hear what it is they're giving and whatever. But the work is really being done.
Jamil, I'm just listening to your story and thinking about the amount of time and effort that you've put into your role, and actually going above and beyond because of your commitment and passion for what you do. I can hear that, you know, I mean, taking the time out to get a degree in psychology, the resources, obviously it's, it's all voluntary, like you said. So the resources and time that you have to put in to go and study psychology just so that you can give back within your community, it's really admirable. Now, like you said, sports is about a lot more than just, you know, being on the field. And there's so much that happens around, before people actually even get onto the field. So before they start that rugby game, before they start that cricket game, there's so much that goes into it. Organization, planning, you know, all of those things that happens around that. I think what we also want for our audience is to maybe give them some insight into, you know, how these clubs are actually run. You know, what are some of the things that ordinary people may not know, that may want to have them get more involved and contribute, either from a voluntary perspective or from a financial perspective.
So Ali, I'm going to start that off with a bit of history.
Okay.
Because what's happening now has been happening since my dad's time when he was little, you know, and it's just a continuation of that type of passion and love for the sport. But I think we hide it with our love for the community, you know. So my dad would always explain to us about his upbringing and how they used to play at basically, let's start off in his yard on his own with and do the paper ball and all those kind of things, and used to use that ball and bowl at a stick all the time to practice. And it was just a different kind of passion and a different kind of love for the game, and I call it true love, you know, because they would run the Bosch Common, for example. Everybody can relate to that, you know. So he says when it comes to rugby, season's ended and they're going to play a test match now at Rondebosch Common. There's no field there, right? They've got a mat somewhere at home, so they're living Stegman Road, right? So they're getting the mat from Stegman Road, carrying it across, carrying it across to Rondebosch Common, and basically to clear the field, mainly now to cut the grass to make it playable, they burn a section of the field, right? Put down the mat and they play their test match cricket.
I did not know this.
That's commitment.
That's commitment at that age.
Yeah.
I mean, if our kids will do that today.
This is the point I'm getting to.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's years since then, and the passion has changed. You know, it's a different time now. And what I'm just saying is, my dad would say he would have a mentor or a coach that would basically drive them around.
Yeah.
And it was competitive at the time. You know, at that time they used to play street against street.
Yes.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
And it was hectic. It was like proper, intense test match cricket, guy.
Okay.
And I mean, this is what they speak. And when they speak about it, you can just hear the passion behind that. And he subsequently became a mentor as well. And I mean, I will hear it now from guys that are maybe 5-6 years older than me. He coached them at Rosmead when they were 4 or 5 years old and whatever. So he never coached me. I think he was still playing too many times and whatever. So my coach I had 2 coaches that basically mentored me from 6-7 years old. Yeah, up until under 19, under 18. Well, the Grandem Jannah, inshallah, they both passed away now. But that passion is there, and the commitment for the greater good, man.
Yeah.
Even though they love the sport, and you can always throw it down and say, yeah, but you love the sport. They're there because, I mean, nobody just does it for the love of the sport, man.
Yeah.
I mean, to be there with kids in that sun,
Correct.
day in and day out, and it's 35 overs we play, so it's 70 overs.
That's a whole day.
That's a whole day.
That's a whole day.
Yeah,
So Jamil, you currently the chairman of Primrose Cricket Club.
correct.
Right? So I'm one of those guilty parents where I drop my kid off at the club or on practice and I leave. And I'll drop him off at the game, I'll watch the game and I'll leave. And I can make excuses, I don't have time. But I think there's a lot that people can actually do. You know, besides being financially involved, but there's a lot of you can do to give back. Whether it's getting involved with the kids, helping out on training, you know, driving them around, picking them up, taking them to different venues, etc. But as a chairman, what does it take, you know, to run a club like Primrose Cricket Club?
Yeah, lot of sacrifice, a lot of family time.
Yeah.
Suppose my family time, let's not go into the family time, but a lot of sacrifice, a lot of planning, and I think I was just lucky. I became the chairman 2 years ago, but I've been involved with the administration of the club about 12 years now.
Okay.
I think in this period of 12 years, I was just lucky that I fell into an era where there were lots of willing, able, and also committed parents that were on the same page as I was.
Yeah.
It's the secret.
Correct.
Because I know what it was like before, and my father was in cricket administration, and I always said I will never ever be part of a cricket administration.
I think it's with all sporting coaches, politics everywhere, right? I mean, every club,
but you know, our community's got a special type of politics. So it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in its different form or whatever it is. But that was what I said. You know, growing up, when I was done playing and I got into IT. I didn't want to go into social. My dad was a social worker by profession. You know, and my mom was a doctor. So they give their lives to their communities, and so we witnessed that. You know, so 24/7, dad's on the road all the time, mom's at work all the time. So you didn't want that, man. You didn't want to be a workaholic. You know.
Yes.
So I thought, no, go IT. At that time, IT should have been the in thing, you know, making the big bucks. But then again, that also didn't turn out to be that. But so. No, it takes a lot of commitment, like I said, but the main thing is the people that work with you. You know, you like, I mean, I know a lot of clubs struggle now with, and I'm not going to disrespect the old, but things have changed and things do, you have to do things differently.
Correct.
But you get to the point where you do things differently and you forget the past.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. Whereas I think I was just spoiled in a way where my made me understand the past, and I understand the value of the past, and where I could incorporate new types of strategies together with that.
Okay.
I think that's the secret.
Yeah.
You know, the youngsters come in now, and then they think they've got the answer,
Correct.
and then they want to brush away the past. You're going to fail.
I think experience is important. You know, having that experience is important.
Yeah.
All the guys around. One other thing that I've seen in sport that I went through myself over the last couple of years was two things. Was the drought a couple of years ago, and then COVID. How did that impact? Probably all sporting clubs. What impact did that have on the club as a whole?
It was a lovely break, man.
The guys were crying. You know, there's no sports on the Saturday. What do you do?
I think there were two avenues that was happy. It was our field.
Yeah.
Because after COVID, that field was lush.
Got a break.
Got a break. That could breathe. It could grow. And the administrators, you know, like myself, it was a nice. It was
Welcome
a nice
break.
But I speak about the love and the passion for the game, rugby and cricket.
Yeah.
They couldn't wait. Our youth
I can imagine.
couldn't wait to get back out there.
Yeah.
And it just showed us even more how important it is for us to carry on doing what we're doing. So, yeah, it was tough for them, and I'm sure the parents also was pulling their hair out because the kids were at home all the time. But, you know, since COVID, there were lots more private coaching clinics that came about. And because of you couldn't do it in groups.
Correct.
And they're still carrying on now. And yeah, I think it's actually added value
So
to the infrastructure.
That came from things like that, and it's
100%.
still continuing at the moment. That's awesome.
Jamil, if I think of Primroses and you're talking about the history, and that's a very important piece that you touch on, because when you look at sports clubs specifically, the history is really what matters, because that's what gives that, you know, that sense of legacy, that sense of belonging. And whenever I think of Primroses, I always think of them as a club with a rich history. So even with my own nephews or you know, my family members, I'll say, no, go to Primroses, you know, go join them, go play cricket there, or go play rugby there, or whatever. That's because that's how I think of Primroses. And but what I'm quite interested in, because you know, obviously Primroses is also seen as a Muslim sports club, in a sense. Although it's open to, you know, the entire community. I wonder, what are some of the, you know, we're looking at legacy, we're looking at history, which is so important. But now, being chairman of a club like this, how do you blend the history with, you know, kind of, you know, where the club is going to go in the future, and maybe your vision for that?
Too easy, man. You know? So you ask about that blending and almost also that acceptance. You know, in cricket and rugby, we've got so much respect in those arenas because of our history and because of the manner in which we play the game and we're competitive, but also the manner in which how we are on and off the field. So why I say it's easy now, yes, there are challenges. Yes, you hear about the fights here and there and the argy-bargy all over the place. It's part of the game. You know, it doesn't zone back to your Muslim clubs. We take it upon ourselves because there's a certain ethic and moral standard that we need to uphold, you know. And obviously we slip here and there and whatever, but if we don't align ourselves to our deen, then we've got no club. Then we don't operate. Because if that is not your goal, and then it's pointless. So we always push the point of, I mean, alhamdulillah, now at the field now, we've got the Salah Khana. 6 o'clock training started. You got 40 guys salaying Maghrib before they can go train. On the chat before the training or this afternoon, they says, guys, come with the because before we're going to make namaz. So yeah, I think we're going in the right direction. But to answer your point, it's been done for us already with our predecessors.
And now when we look at the blending and we look at, you know, where the clubs are going, you know, things like Salah Khanas, coming with wudu. I mean, these types of things that you implement into the club, I mean, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing, and to have that with sports,
100%.
you know. I even think about sometimes, you know, in terms of the running community, same thing. People will like say, okay, look, the race starts at a certain time, but we're first going to make fajr, or we're going to pull over for fajr, and we're
it's
going to pray
beautiful.
fajr.
Yeah.
No, it really is. But we are also we are kind of wanted to lead this conversation is to say, well, you know, how can we become more aware and more involved? How do you get the community to become more involved? Because, you know, these sports clubs end up being an outlet for a lot of the, you know, kids in underprivileged communities, let's say, for example. And you touched on the psychological aspect of things. How can the community get involved in supporting these types of kids, you know, where this could be the only, you know, form of, or only outlet for them to get away from, you know, the current situation?
Yeah, in the time I was coaching rugby, right, we had quite a few boys from Hanover Park. And on a Saturday morning, my routine was to go and pick up in Hanover Park together with my assistant. He would do one section, I would do one section. And we'd end up maybe with 10 boys from Hanover Park at the field. When you talk about input, like I said earlier, you know, the clubs are doing the work, man. That's why I say if you're wanting to contribute and you're wanting to know more about and contribute in whichever way, go to the clubs that resonate with you or that you're in contact with, and go and listen to what their structures are, and then add your advice and your input to that so that you can, you know, a good example is with us now and Bright Insurance. They were just like a miracle out of nowhere, you know, but their main drive was to uplift communities. And just luckily our rugby and cricket club were there, and, you know, they basically took us to another level where we could do things that we were longing to do previously. So, you know, before we have to juggle things around because I mean, there's no budget, right? And you're going to get here and there, but it's not enough. With them on board, it just takes us where we can just zone in on the important thing of continuing legacy, you know, and especially like investing in our youth to make sure that it's a constant feeder. You know, we've grown a lot over the years. You know, previously it was always very competitive. So it's always like at the schools, even now at the Model C schools, you hear the parents complaining about they're just worried about the first team.
Yeah.
I think where I've transitioned and learned now is that investment is not in the first team. Investment is in your youth, in your second team, in your third team, and in your youth structure. Because now you're creating legacy. You know, your first team guys, you know you're going to spend the biggest bucks over there, but they're going to go to the best dollar next year.
Correct.
You know, so that is our learning now for the period of time that we've been involved. So, yeah, just if you want to, it's happening. It's not that it's not happening. People have plans. I mean, you'd get biokinetics that joins the club. They'll go to UWC and go fetch physiotherapists out there. These things are happening, man. You know, we're reaching out to the professionals, but if you've got a limited budget, then you've got limited resources. And you've got limited ways in how you can carry out your plan. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's happening out there. The people are doing the work.
Jamil, with Primroses, what's the relationship like with the other clubs, the other clubs in the league, you know, clubs in the area? What's that relationship like, and is that important for a club like Primroses?
Healthy, right? I can say healthy in many ways.
Yeah.
So we're competitive.
Yeah.
I do think, especially with our junior structure, I can't say that now that we are the strongest junior structure, rugby and cricket. I could say it for the last 10 years, but I would say 2-3 years ago, the other clubs are really stepping up and putting in the effort to basically compete. So we've lost a little bit and we pick up a little bit players here and there, but it's for the greater good, you know. So I think the intellectual capital and the models that are used gets. I'm not saying we got the ultimate model, but what I'm saying is you learn a little bit from everybody, and that is what we're about. We're in contact all the time. We're setting up matches all the time. So, with regards to cricket and rugby and playing and on the playing day, there's good communications between the clubs.
I think that's important, between the clubs as well. I think at the end of the day, even if you share common goals, even though it's about creating a platform for the kids to actually go out there and play, their sports. We spoke a bit about the challenges and the history of the club. Talk to us a little about the accolades and the achievements of Primrose over the past few years.
I think our biggest achievement now is we're going to knock on 50 now. 50 years.
50 years.
So that is quite a milestone.
Yeah.
Current accolades, we got promoted now to we just missed promotion to the Premier League. Now we ended third.
Okay.
The previous year we got relegated from the Premier League down, and obviously the year before we got promoted. So we just went up and down.
Yeah.
So it's tough up there, and that was the point I was going to add on to what we just briefly spoke about. It's about understanding the environment and then knowing your cap of where you're at.
Okay.
So you can be a runner and you can have running in your mind, and you can be doing Table Mountain or Platte Klip.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's where I saw you. And you can be walking up. That's what I did. Ali was running.
Yeah.
But, who's going to be doing the sub-hour?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What does it take? Now, that for me is real.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe on your cricket and rugby terrain, it doesn't really hit home as to what you need to put in to be able to stay up there. So that's why I say the competition is tough. I mean, even in the league that we play in.
Yeah.
So rugby and cricket, we're in the same league. It's just one below the Premier League.
Okay.
And for me, my personal opinion is that is where we suited now.
Okay.
Until we get to a point where administration makes that shift, but the players make that mindset shift as well.
Okay.
And I think this is where I would like to add value to all our clubs. And I've reached out to a couple already.
Okay.
Is getting your players in to be able to make that mindset shift. And even though we have, you hear the coaches speaking the language, at the end of the day, they want to win.
Yeah.
So that mindset shift, the point that you're trying to make and to get across, doesn't really resonate with him because it gets overpowered by the win on the, on the weekend. So that is a tough one. And I've taken on, like case studies, I've taken on some players like under my wing, just to give it a go kind of thing, from a counselling psychology point of view. And that's the gap.
Okay.
That is now my secret now.
Yeah.
In 2 years, 3 years' time, you're going to see Primrose progress. That is the angle that I've taken now to be able to get to the next level.
Some of the things maybe to help these players are, if we look, for example, at someone like Salman Murat, who is now the first Muslim captain, or was the first Muslim captain of the Springboks rugby. And for those who don't know Springboks rugby, I mean, it's for us, it's within the Muslim community, normally it's the pinnacle, it's the ultimate. Unless you were All Blacks. But yeah, we're not going to go.
You have to go there now.
We're not going to go there, but some people understand what I'm saying.
Not some people. Deep down understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jamil, just maybe, in terms of psychology, if you see your players, or I'm just talking about rugby specifically now, and we have Hashim Amla, for example, in cricket, although he's not necessarily from South Africa. I think he was more of a...
No, he's from Durban.
Was he from Durban? But wasn't he... okay. But we have Hashim Amla, and then we have Salman Murat now, for example. So using those types of examples definitely gives our community, or the Muslim player, or the players or they play for Primroses, that an example to say, hey, you know, these guys are doing it. We can also do it. But is there something that, you know, and maybe does this come back to our legacy of apartheid, for example, you know, where, you know, people like your father and, you know, his, you know, the people that played in his time could not join or not play in, you know, certain leagues because of the color of their skin and, you know, those types of things. Is that still that legacy that is, do you feel maybe that that's carrying through into our community still, like, you know, the chains are still on in a sense?
Yeah, the way I'm going to answer you now, a lot of people's not going to agree with me.
Okay.
But everything has its waqt. And we speak about context all the time in many different facets of life. And where we at is where we're at. And what you need to do to provide the outcome is what you need to do to provide the outcome. So, yes, 30 years down the line, we have progressed and we are moving on. And the question you're asking, why aren't there more? You know? We just chatted about it just before this about Platte Club. You know, it's about that mindset shift to be able to. So whenever I do this analogy, I go down to the All Blacks and I guess, why is it that they were so successful over such a long period of time? And then just the one simple thing of when they were here in Cape Town and Daniel Carter and Richie Moko were pulling out the team's bags out of the hotel to load up because it was their turn to gather the bags, you know.
They were the greatest players.
Kings of the game.
Yeah.
It was their turn. So that level of humility and understanding of who you are as a person and in context of where you're at, that hasn't resonated with us yet. For me, the Model C style of the education, we still are too cottonwool in those type of domains, man. You know? So if you look at the makeup of that All Blacks team, it's guys that come out of townships. Yeah. They can dig deep, man. We don't know about digging deep. Even in our community. You know, even if you can go even as far as Manenberg as well. How many guys of Manenberg and in Hanover Park and whatever has actually gone the extra mile to go and really bulk up and whatever and get seen? So yes, they can say they didn't get the opportunity, but are there ways to get the opportunity? You know, there are coaches that is now in the Stormer setup that's been in our communities forever. They're going to hunt you down and they're going to pull you in if you're worthwhile. So it is more difficult because, say for example, in the Model C, you are spoon fed, you know. But is it possible? 100% possible. You just need to basically, you know, get on board and find a way, man. You know, normally we get to a club and the coaches are all there, but if the coaches doesn't see you, and you run home and say, I gaan nie meer speel, man. You can't have that attitude if you're wanting to progress. You know, make yourself seen. You know, I've got a nephew that's gone from soccer club to soccer club because nobody just sees him, right? So maybe like the father's not around, so the mother goes and she stands on the side and watches the lighting and whatever. But like our community clubs are, the father that's the coach and anybody that's in their network, they're going to play, you know. Yeah. So he's not in that circle, right? We come from rugby and cricket. He's in soccer. So he's moved around a couple of years now, to a point now, I don't know the club's name now, but he comes to me every week and he says, Uncle Jamil, I'm playing 14A and I play the whole game, you know, because he's valued.
Yeah.
So is it possible? Very much possible, you know. Or the others given a silver spoon, but they still work, you know. So if Primrose goes to play Durbanville, what's going to happen, you know? There's spoon fed, but there's a lot of work that goes behind Durbanville to be Durbanville, you know. So yeah, there's And this is the other dynamic, the social dynamic as well, of work and professionalism. So there's a lot of those kind of things that we are challenged with.
Okay.
But we also need to sit down and say, listen, it's not just about why is our people not playing. We need to look at all these factors and be real about it. You know?
Jamil, looking at the current crop of players at Pyramids and in the league, do you think there's probably a few Springbok players in the making, provincial players in the making?
I am so excited. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
There are two ladies that are going to play for the Proteas. They are under 16 now and under 18. But I'm not going to mention names because if you mention one name, then there's a lot of other people, whatever. But I must say that, I mean, and yes, they are at the model C's because right from the clubs now they basically, you know, you
scholarships
you get a scholarship and whatever. But there is a lot of talent out there.
Yeah.
It needs to be managed and administered properly. They need to be humbled. You know, they don't make them put on a pedestal because they lose it.
Correct.
They can't manage the ego.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, hard work's still got to go into it. You can have all the talent, but you're not willing to, you know, run up at the club.
Yeah.
You know, do things outside of the club, what the club is offering. So the club, you got your training on a Tuesday and a Thursday, as an example,
Right.
And you plan the weekend. But if you're doing nothing over and above that, I mean, you know, I think that's perhaps a difference between your elite or you guys that actually make it enough.
We are challenged and competing with this fast moving world.
Yeah.
You know, back in my dad's time it was cricket and rugby. There was nothing else. You know, not even a TV. But I mean, what do we have today? You know, so that is our competition.
Yeah.
You know, about 10 years ago, we were wondering now how must we just close our junior section for cricket.
Sure.
Because, I mean, you just started to lose because of a PlayStation.
Wow.
You know, people opting to be on the PlayStation. So, it's come back a lot, and there's a lot of competitions now to make it a little bit more interesting and more exciting. So we've partnered up with OCAF South Africa, who had us a name on here.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, they've been a blessing now. This is going to be the 10th year now that they basically sponsor a competition for community clubs.
Okay.
And I mean, there's about, there are loads of teams that play from under 10 up until the under 18s.
Sure.
And they get fed. And they're given an environment that is competitive. And it's just, you know, and in Durbanville there's something similar, and Somerset West also does something similar.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Jamil, talking about television, I think it was last night where I saw a 14-year-old by the name of, I'm probably going to butcher this now, but Vayhav Shuya Van
He's too new for me to know the name.
Yeah,
14-year-old, right?
14-year-old.
He just turned 14.
Just turned 14. Had no fear, absolutely no fear. Goes out there, hits 101 or hits 135 balls. I mean,
so I heard about it the next morning, and I went on the highlights immediately.
Yeah, same here.
And I needed to see this, man.
Yeah.
And what I look at is just demeanor and body language.
But the guy's bold. I mean, he's 14 years old. I look at my 15-year-old son. He's thin. And this boy looks like, matured, but 14, and he's doing what he's doing. What is that? Where did that come from?
That day, he's born like that. I can't. No, you're gonna get even. And I went into that and I listened to some things now today.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the previous Indian coach. He also said, listen, even Sachin wasn't born a cricketer.
Yeah.
This lady he's born. You can't teach a lady like that.
Sure.
What he's got is just what he's got.
Yeah.
and I said to my wife, because we were watching it together, and it's funny because you mentioned demeanor. And I said, when I look at him, he's 14 years old. He has nothing to prove, and he's just going out there. And he got lucky on a few balls.
Yeah.
But he just went out there and he just went for it.
And he had the time of his life.
And I mean, you could just see the confidence, and that's something that we hope to see in more of our community players.
But
and
make the additional point of he went all out, and he was facing India's main bowler.
Correct.
Okay, that I didn't know.
That's India's top bowler that he just tore to
Destroyed.
pieces. I think he hit 13 over.
30 runs and all.
Wow.
No, it was great. It was just lovely to see.
Jamil, maybe just to end off, because I can see us going and talking like this for hours. I told you we're gonna have to do a part 1 and a part 2. But Jamil, just to maybe the aspiring sportsmen, in our community, rugby and cricket is huge. It's very, very big for us, and we try to reach out to the youth. Okay. Firstly, what we want to say to the community is, we want them to come out and support our Muslim sports clubs, right? Financially, there are a lot of businesses with a lot of, additional finances where they actually contribute to organizations, and they're looking for organizations to give the funds to. Here's a great opportunity to help the community and to help kids who are looking to grow within a specific sport. But what I was asking from Jamil, as the chairman of Primrose, is what advice would you give to the youth, to say, okay, what is it, in terms of your vision for what you see for where these clubs are going, but also what message do you want to give to the youth out there who are maybe aspiring not only to be like yourself, or maybe aspiring to be a Proteas player or a Springbok?
Well, I don't know, love what you do, and do it for yourself. Don't do it for your parents, because we've got quite a few cases like this where parents are living it through their kids, and maybe they push them to a point where they actually get to love the game, and they start second guessing themselves. Am I actually doing this for you or me? For that kid that you're asking, that you're basically reaching out to, is it make sure that you're doing it for yourself and that you're enjoying it, and that it does something to you as a person, that the sport benefits you as a person and grows you as a person. Sport has got too many relevant attributes to be able to grow traits in ourselves, And resilience is the one thing that our kids don't have today. And cricket might be the worst sport to think about, because you want to stand in the sun all day. But think about it, If it is that you are totally enjoying it, and it is that you do manage to get through that 100 overs, and it gets intense, How are you wiring your mind? And this is what we must think about. Maybe to the parents now, especially when that child from the age between 5 and 12 years old, you are conditioning your child to be the type of person he's going to be after. So if you're on the side shouting and going on and whatever, how's that wiring happening? How is that conditioning and forming your child? So for the children after 12, love it and understand it and become your own person and do it for yourself. And for the parents before 12, know your impact that you have on your child, because when you're going to see it when they're 18 years old and 19 years old, and you're not going to want to take the blame. But it happens in that period of their life. It's so important.
So, Jamil, shukran so much for the opportunity. It was amazing speaking to you and understanding what it takes, to run a cricket club, as well as your experience and your history in the game. We ask Allah to protect you, continue giving back to the community, we benefit so much from. And we hope to have you on the podcast for part 2, inshallah.
Inshallah. I just don't know if I answered any of your questions, because I go on my own trip when I start going, so I ask Ma for that.
No, you gave us some nice insights into what happens behind the scenes. I think a lot of us, we just end up playing on the game on a Saturday. Everything is there for us. There's a referee, our kit is clean, putting our boards, we're running onto the field, or whether it's cricket, we're pitching up, the umpire is there, and everything is sorted for us. But very few of us actually understand what it takes to actually put that together, how much work it goes into that, and even from a parent's perspective, you know. So again, I think on behalf of the parents and the people in the community, shukran for the work that you do, because it is very important that our kids are involved in sports. And like I said, like we started off the podcast, there's a lot of things that we can take from sports that we can carry over into our life that help us mold us into successful human beings, whether it be in our careers, as family people, etc.
There you have it, guys. Please try to get involved with your local community sports clubs. And if you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up, a like, leave a comment, hit the bell icon. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.